Good day, everybody, and thank you for listening to WesternPacificWeather.com. Today's just going to be a very quick recap on MEGI, or JUAN, or 15W, as some people have come to know it. One of the most destructive storms of 2010, known in several countries as a very devastating and deadly storm, and actually the seventh most costliest storm in Philippine history. So, an overall, just a strong system, and we just want to do this quick update to basically recap this overall storm from birth, origin, to dissipation over China. So first day was actually noticed was on the 12th of October when JTWC put out a TCFA warning on this system, basically in the evening of 11th into the 12th. It was near Guam and Saipan, and actually, which is shown right here, and actually on radar, you could have seen some rain showers moving over the area, and you just basically saw them moving from east to west. Don't have any archived radar data from there, but just to note, though, ASCAT imagery actually put the center of circulation right in here, and basically, we all saw this as a very strong monsoonal trough throughout this entire region, and up ahead of this, shear was going to start lifting, and it was about to run into some 90 degrees water temperature, so I think all eyes actually started noticing this storm right off the bat. Now on the 12th, this storm was upgraded to a tropical depression, but on the 13th here, it was actually upgraded to a tropical storm, shown right here, warning number 2 from JTWC, and I actually want to give them a heads up, because if we pause this, move this screen over here, you can see that their original track took it right near Apari, right here in northeast Luzon, and just along the basically just barely north, if you extended this out, of where it actually made landfall here in the Sierra Madre region. So 2 thumbs up to JTWC on this long-range forecast. They really had this exact and gave the northeast Luzon here in the Philippines a very long-range outlook on this, and basically a good heads up. So that's probably likely why the death toll in the Philippines was not as high as it could have been due to the extensive warning out here. And also Bagasa did a very good job. Still suffering from the last several typhoons causing very widespread damage here in the Philippines. This time around, the government agencies here in the Philippines really took this storm exceptionally serious, and with the very good forecasting track out of this system, Bagasa's warnings basically matched up here with JTWC. The many people in the low-lying areas here in northeast Luzon really did have a lot of good warning and a good time to make it inland. Now, MEGI was still a tropical storm on the 14th, and shown here, still had some disorganization, and especially on the west side of it, still had a lot of dry air inflow, but the east side still had a very good equatorial outflow and a lot of inflow into it. So we basically knew that this storm was going to be a very strong and destructive once it started moving over those warmer waters here to the west. And on the 15th, it actually started and officially was declared a typhoon. On the 17th, it really came into its own, showing some classic, very strong typhoon signatures throughout here. But on the 17th and the 18th, it actually started to drift south and to the west here, and I'm making landfall on the 18th as a very strong Category 5 typhoon. Now shown here, though, as the same satellite imagery at the beginning of the update here, showing this system on the 17th, just prior to landfall. But the reason why I showed this is right before it made landfall here, it had all of its overall semicircle outflow on all peripheries, and overall cloud tops were very cold at the top before it started making land interaction here with Luzon, and it was just showing a very strong and destructive system, and you can see a very well-defined eye. And overall, this was just basically a scary situation. Another good thing about this satellite loop, it shows you this jog to the southwest that we experienced right prior to landfall, which basically took Apari right out of the intensity of the inner eye wall and put basically the Isabela, the province of Isabela down here in the Sierra Madre National Park region under the gun. Now here's a visible imagery on the 18th at landfall. The system made landfall with wind speeds right around 130 knots, and JMA actually had this system at 885 millibar pressure at landfall. This was not confirmed, though. There are very limited observations on the ground in this entire region at landfall, so clearly can't confirm this. But if it was confirmed, the 885 millibars, this would have made this system the strongest storm ever in world history, that's recorded history, for making landfall. It made landfall as a Category 5, very strong storm surge actually out of this, and there's a lot of pictures just showing the overall destruction here. And actually there's a field reporter up here in Apari, and it was one of his videos here, and just showing the overall destructive force from this storm. Very strong winds even as far north as Apari, and this still had an outer eye wall out there, and just some exceptionally strong winds, and the overall devastation from this storm was very significant. Now here is showing a video of some of the destruction up in the Isabela province, and just showing many trees down, leaves off these trees, and a lot of damage to structures throughout that area. So very good news that the death toll remain relatively low. Any deaths in the first place is just a sad situation, but it could have been a lot worse, and very happy that the evacuations orders were made in that region and that it wasn't as bad as it could have been. But right now, though, it looks like this storm will go down as the seventh costliest storm in the Philippine history at $193 million. So just the overall loss to agriculture and houses there and homes overall is just phenomenal. But after the storm crossed the Philippines, it re-emerged in the South China Sea and very disrupted due to the mountains here in northern Luzon, and that actually spread out the wind field from this system very far across, all the way from Hong Kong over to Taiwan, experienced tropical storm force winds, and even Taiwan eventually issued a typhoon warning here, and Hong Kong went all the way up to signal number 3 in this city here. The storm actually eventually started making its way north, and it turned to the northeast towards the Taiwan Strait, eventually making landfall up here in southeast China. Before doing so, it gradually started to weaken, and kind of shown on this visible imagery right in here, you can see off to the north here, a lot of the higher cloud tops are very disrupted. About 30 to 40 knots of wind shear was actually to partake in that, and it really was good news for much of the area in southeast China here. The only big issue to come out of this storm outside of the winds was the fact of rain, and in Taiwan here, the rain was duly shown on radar here. The storm interacted with a stationary front farther up here to the northeast, causing widespread rain throughout Taiwan. And you can see on this outer rain band right in here, when this thing moved across the island, it caused extensive rains throughout the island here, and causing several mudslides and landslides and upwards of a dozen deaths in this area. And so basically it came out to several dozen people missing by this time on the 24th of October. So still extensive damage here in Taiwan, and a very devastating situation, even just with the rains and the eye wall passing far to the west here, as you can see on this radar imagery. Now, the storm did make landfall here on the evening of the 22nd in southeast China, and still wide reports of flooding throughout this region, but it definitely was not as devastating as some of these outer rain bands out here in Taiwan, and actually shown on this video here, where it shows lots of widespread flooding and lots of damage here, and very surprised the death toll wasn't even higher there as well. So kind of good news as far as that, but this looks like it's going to be a very costly storm up here in Taiwan as well. And that is all for this recap. If you have any comments or suggestions, field them to me at westernpacificweather.com. And also want to thank everybody for all the information they fed to me throughout the course of this storm. And let's hope that this will be the last typhoon of 2010. Thank you, everybody.